found her on a field and he were abusing her. So I actually witnessed it. I witnessed him forcing her to give him oral sex.
And you say they as in plural, as in a lot of people? Or?
But the most that I've been told about was a young woman that was taken to a flat and she stopped counting at 36.
What? 36
adults, yeah, in one night. They actually then got a warrant, went in and found something like, I think it was 42 samples of sperm from the ceiling, the walls, do you know what I mean, different DNA samples.
I think that the government absolutely has to stop abandoning Rotherham.
Of what it calls the appalling abuse of at least 1,400 children over a period of 16 years.
Not shocked by the number as other people was, because, you know, those 1,400 we'd worked with, and, you know, and actually that was a low estimate.
It details children being raped, trafficked, beaten and sometimes doused in petrol.
And you imagine a 10, 11-year-old being told, if you don't do what we ask you to do, we're going to rape your mum. Why would they not believe that when it's happening to them every night?
My daughter was removed. My niece actually got gang raped because she wouldn't tell them where her cousin were.
So the threats are real.
Yeah.
But also the key thing for me is this is a national issue. This is going on all across the country.
Labour MP Sarah Champion estimates that there are over 1 million victims of grooming gangs in the UK.
The inquiry says almost all the perpetrators were of Pakistani heritage.
And I gave them a list of what my daughter had written, and she'd written the girls' names, the perpetrators' names, who'd done what to who, and I handed that to the police. I forgot what we were going to say now.
They whittled it down to 8 perpetrators and 5 young women.
When I asked what were going to happen to the other girls that were on this paper, they said we've got to cut it off somewhere.
Why?
And I just looked at him. I went, but what about them other girls?
Why would they cut it off?
And I said, what about the other men that have committed crimes? And he went, there's not what we can do because we'll just be seen as racist.
Even my abuser used to say to me, oh, it's alright, I'll just shoot your race card.
According to the now infamous J report of child sexual exploitation in Rotherham, the difficulties that prevent this issue of CSC being dealt with effectively is the ethnicity of the main perpetrators. The police dared not act against Asian youths for fear of allegations of racism.
We could put some very, very good intelligence in, but we're constantly told it wasn't evidence, it wasn't good enough. And then on the flip side of that, what we were being told by professionals that were working with the children is the children were making a choice. And they were facilitating, in some cases, their own abuse. Children don't facilitate their own abuse and don't choose to be abused, but it seems to be the only area that we've actually allowed that to happen, is around child sexual exploitation.
So basically the police and the authorities were basically saying that the kids were facilitating it?
It was, yeah, they'd made the decision, it was an informed choice.
So a 9-year-old kid,
yeah,
according to the police and the politicians, made a choice?
Yeah, an informed choice, yeah.
According to the authorities, these girls made an informed choice to be scratched, choked, beaten, branded, gang raped, sexually assaulted with knives and a baseball bat, raped with a broken bottle. A girl had her tongue nailed to the table when she threatened to tell.
I think I got really close to having a nervous breakdown. I couldn't process that there was this whole dark world going on, that girls in this town could go through such incredible horrors, that they go to the police, they go to the council, who are just turning a blind eye on them. That shouldn't happen in my town, and that shouldn't happen in my country.
Not only did the city council turn a blind eye, the Sarah J. report mentions that some influential council members of Pakistani descent in Rotherham had acted as barriers in dealing with this issue.
Hello, I'm Councillor Jahangir Akhtar. What do you want protected? Protect
As well, my abuser, it's him who's related to Jangir Akhtar, who was, well, the counsellor, he's not now, he's a...
Yankee Akhtar is related to the Hussein family, who were one of the most active grooming gangs in Rotherham. Jessica's abuser, Arshad Hussein, is Yankee Akhtar's cousin.
And when I went missing, the police and Jangir Akhtar met with me and my abuser at a petrol station and passed me over. And again, he didn't get arrested, but he actually passed me over.
Well, that's since been investigated by authorities and you were cleared of all the wrongdoings.
Apparently, because that's not a criminal offence and they sometimes do that on odd occasions.
And you think that the relationship between the abuser and this politician probably helped him from not being arrested?
Definitely, yeah.
Anju Akhtar has since been accused by the victims of participating in the sexual abuse.
Like, what I was thinking of, and I know it's probably quite bad to say this, if it would have been 1,400 Muslim girls raped by white men, Rotherham would be on terrorist alert.
Wow.
Probably we would have been bombed.
Well, yeah.
And nobody wants to speak about it in case, oh God, you know, you're racist, you can't say that.
And have you guys ever been accused of being racist?
Yeah. In fact, I remember actually one of my first interviews I did, and they said to me, why do you think, you know, it were covered up? And I said, I won't be able to say it on camera. She said, if it's, you know, all bad, we won't air it anyway. And all I said to her, I think it was because he were Asian. Yeah. But I was even scared to say it because in Rotherham, you can't say anything bad about a Pakistani. I think the white race is way below, and everybody else gets, you know, favoritised over a white person, whether it to be with a criminal offence, with housing, with benefits.
And in this way, you could say that many people in the West are becoming a sort of second-class citizen in their own neighborhoods. Islamic scriptures even have a term for that. It's called a dhimmi status of a dhimmi. Yeah.
David Cameron keeps saying that we're Great Britain, and we're not Great Britain, we're just Britain.
Because you can't even fucking protect your own kids.
Exactly. And as well, I think that what the saddest thing is for me is that they don't actually want to protect them, because they know exactly what's going on.
Sweden and Germany will find themselves in the future exactly the same way that Britain is in now, which is organised Muslim gang rape, which is then covered up by the British establishment.
That's exactly what happened to me. We've been forced to wear the hijab and the niqab. We've been covered head to toe. The hijab and the niqab, it's protection. It's for your protections and for women not to be sexually molested and all that.
For them, I think the hijab is a symbolic marker which separates the submissive, proper Muslim women from what they see as the Norwegian horse. But when I say horse, I'm really just referring to their own words. This is what they told the journalists.
This explains why 100% of assault rapes in Oslo are committed by migrants, and 90% of the victims are ethnic Norwegian girls.
Including 14-year-old Ava Helgeton, who was gang raped by 3 African migrants. One of the rapists was sentenced to a mere 344 hours of community service. Ava committed suicide 3 weeks after she was gang raped.
And so here we have it, the East London Mosque. You can see people outside. There have been people outside praying outside the mosque rather than inside. They're all heading inside the mosque now. Some of them are coming out. So, welcome to East London.
Overnight, images are apocalyptic.
London on fire. A wave of violence.
We don't want freedom! We want Islam and the Sharia!
Right, this area here, this is called the Whitechapel Road, and a couple of generations ago it used to be predominantly white working class. A lot of Jewish people were living in this area too, but of course in the last couple of decades, the last few decades, many people have moved in from Bengal and other areas, a lot of Muslims, and it's pretty much a Muslim area now.
The changing demographics of England made headlines in 2016 when the Muslim population surpassed 3 million. Parts of London are almost 50% Islamic. The Muslim population has tripled since 1991, and Mohammed is now the #1 baby name in London.
The big change in Britain took place in the late 1990s with the advent of Mr. Blair's Labour government in 1997. They felt that a somewhat more open doors policy was appropriate to regard migration much more as an asset, both economic and cultural. And a number of changes were made both in administrative rules and also in legislation, which greatly facilitated immigration.
Right behind me here, we have the East London Mosque, which serves the largest Muslim community in the UK. It holds 7,000 people. Now this mosque has a very bad reputation. Andrew Gilligan of The Telegraph accuses it of being run by the Islamic Forum of Europe, which is an extremist organisation. They've had a number of notorious speakers there, hate preachers of various kinds. So it doesn't have a good reputation.
There's a risk that it will have a negative effect. It's certainly the case that in some minority groups, particularly from poor rural areas, where in poor rural agricultural areas it's normal for there to be a marked difference in equality between the sexes, and for society to be much more patriarchal, that insofar as those societies don't change and don't integrate, then as they grow in numbers, then the problem will at least for a while become worse.
As we went out into the concourse, like to get out of the arena, there was just bodies scattered about everywhere.
22 people were killed, including children. Police said 12 children under the age of 16 were among them.
After these incidents, terrible, nasty right-wing people like me say, where are all the Muslims saying not in our name? We know that if you publish a picture of a cartoon, you can immediately have 100,000 raving Muslims on the streets. But if they murder in cold blood children at a pop concert, you tend not to have any of them coming out on the streets afterwards saying not in our name. So CNN obviously decided that what they needed to do was to get some people saying not in our name and film them.
What I want to show you now, viewers, is a wonderful scene. These are Muslim mums turn to London, and I think a poignant scene and a scene we should sit on just for you viewers to understand exactly how people feel here on the streets of London, so close to what were such brutal attacks last night.
It was after that one that CNN turned up and were organising a group of about 5 or 6 Muslim females. They were being manoeuvred into a position where they could be grouped together with a very tightly focused TV CNN crew there to try and make them look as though they were far more. And they didn't realise that other people were filming CNN, filming these Muslim women, and obviously organising them. It was not an impromptu thing. It was organised by CNN.
What was supposed to be a spontaneous protest looked more like a Hollywood movie set, with lights, producers, and actors receiving instructions from directors.
To use this kind of deliberate confusion, cover-up, the sort of watering down of the truth is something that is extremely unhealthy in a democracy.
My name is Sadiq Khan and I'm the Mayor of London.
Sadiq Khan made history when he became the first Muslim mayor of London in 2016. As the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan has pledged to be the British Muslim who takes the fight to the extremists. Yet he has also declared that he does not have the time to keep track of jihadists returning to London.
Because the Met Police budget, roughly speaking, 15% to 20% is funded by me, the mayor. The rest comes from central government. If the Met Police budget is being shrunk and reduced, they've got to prioritise and use their resources in a sensible, savvy way.
What could be a bigger priority than people coming back from a Syrian battlefield with intent to harm British citizens?
Combating Islamophobia is a bigger priority. The mayor may not have the time or resources to keep track of returned jihadis, but the mayor has found £1.7 million to fight Islamophobia on the internet. Just 1 month after the Westminster attack, Sadiq Khan launched the London online hate crime hub.
I can't follow 400 people. What I can do is make sure
nobody really is able to say anything about Islam ever again. So it's extraordinary. One of the most extraordinary things which I came across the other day was a report by the London Metropolitan Police, 138 pages about Islamophobia. They list 8 things that the police have decided are redolent of Islamophobia. And one of them is apparently believing Islam to be a political ideology. So if you believe Islam as a political ideology, you're an Islamophobe in the eyes of the Metropolitan Police in Great Britain. And they classify that as a hate crime for which you can go to jail for 2 years.
What can also land you in jail is viewing Islam as violent, aggressive, threatening, and supportive of terrorism.
And I often wonder, when you think about the Mutaween in Saudi Arabia, the religious police, these 8 things that the London Metropolitan Police have listed could have come out of the Mutaween handbook in Saudi Arabia. It is total Sharia compliant